Today's recipe calls for fresh corn. I'm going to show you how to make cheesy, spicy corn poppers. They're not going to be super healthy, but boy, let me tell you, they're going to be delicious. So with that said, let's get started.
The first thing we're going to do is clean 6 ears of fresh corn. You're going to peel off the husks and get as much of the hairs as possible. I'm sure everybody's done this at least once or twice in their lifetime, but I'll give you a quick scoop if you haven't before. It's a really easy process. There's not a whole lot to it. It's just a little time consuming. So you're going to peel a little bit from the top and grab on the bottom where the corn came off the stalk. This way you can grab onto the stalk part and not squish any of the corn kernels. You're going to peel the husk from the top down until everything comes off. Once you have it completely peeled, you're going to break off the stem and pull off as much hair as possible. I'm using sweet corn to make these corn poppers. You can use any type of corn of your choice or what's available to you at the time. And if you don't have fresh corn available to you, you can also use canned corn. We're looking for about 4 cups of corn kernels. So either fresh or canned or even frozen would work. I recommend using frozen over canned just because it's picked at peak and then frozen immediately. So it's a little bit fresher than canned stuff. Now that you have all of your corn peeled, you're going to take a clean, dry kitchen towel and start rubbing down your corn. This will help free up any of the hairs that are stuck in between the kernels and peel off whatever you can by hand as well when you rub down your corn. You could also use a vegetable brush to get in between the corn kernels to free up some of that hair from the corn. I don't think it's possible to get all of the hair off. I think it's just an understanding that when you use fresh corn, it's inevitable that you're going to get a little bit of hair in whatever you're making, which isn't really a big deal. If you have a method that works flawlessly to clean off all the hairs from the corn, go ahead and leave it in the comments and share your knowledge so that we all can learn. Now run through and clean all 6 ears of your corn. Now that we have all of our corn cleaned, we're going to take a very sharp knife and cut the bottom off of our ears of corn. This will square off the corn cobs, making it easier for the next step. You want to ensure that you use a very sharp knife to do this. It's pretty tough to cut through. You want to have one hand towards the top of the corn cob, out of the way from the blade, and apply really good pressure to push through the bottom of the corn cob. You may have to rock your knife a little bit back and forth to help cut through, making it easier to cut, or you can even slightly turn your corn cob just a bit, leaving the blade in there to help push through the corn. And of course, ensure that you leave your digits out of the way because you don't want to snag one of those puppies. Now that we have all of our corn cobs squared off, we're going to grab 2 bowls, one large one and then one medium-sized one. And you're going to invert one bowl and place it inside the other bowl so that we can start cutting the kernels off of our corn cobs. If your smaller bowl doesn't fit tightly in your large bowl, you can grab a damp kitchen towel to help keep it in place, almost like it's a cutting board. Or you can even take a damp kitchen towel and throw it under your corn cob to help ensure that it doesn't slip inside your bowl either. You're just going to take your blade and run it from the top to the bottom to cut off the corn kernels. You want to ensure that you use the heel of your knife. This way you have more control over your knife compared to using the tip of your blade. And when you're holding your corn cob, you want to ensure that you keep all of your fingers close and tight on one side away from the blade. So when you go to cut from the top down, you want to look straight down on top of your corn cob to watch your blade cut through the kernels. This way you'll see what you're doing and it'll ensure that you're not going to catch one of your fingers. It doesn't take a lot of pressure or effort to do this. You want to get your blade in between the corn kernel and the cob itself and run it straight down the cob. There's definitely a sweet spot when doing this. If it starts to get really tough, that just means that your knife has started to cut into the cob, making it a lot harder to cut through. So you want to kind of take it out and start over again. And then if your blade runs through really fast, then that means you're probably cutting your corn kernels in half and not getting a full kernel, which also isn't a big deal, but you want to get as much corn kernel as possible. It takes a little bit of practice, but you have 6 ears of corn to practice, so you don't have to be a pro. I've done this quite a bit and still struggle with it. All you want to do is take your time to ensure that you're not going to hurt yourself. You can cross-utilize your corn cobs and use them to make a corn stock. All you need to do is take your corn cobs and boil them with some herbs and spices to make a nice, delicious corn stock, which you can use to make sauces or even soups. I've seen it done before and it comes out really great. Then before you cut your next ear of corn, You want to ensure that you clean the bowl off where you cut the cob, just to ensure that the cob isn't on top of any corn kernels, making it more susceptible to slipping and potentially hurting yourself. Now that you have all of the corn kernels cut off the cobs, we're going to take that smaller bowl out of the large bowl and give it a nice clean off to get all of those corn kernels. You could use a spatula or a spoon for this and then realize that it's worthless and just use your nice clean mitts to clean your bowl off. Now that we have all of our corn kernels cut off the cob, we're going to take a medium-sized saucepan and coat the bottom with about a tablespoon of cooking oil. We're going to turn this to about medium heat so we can start cooking some of the goodies that go inside of our corn poppers. Now that our pan is hot, we're going to add 1 medium red onion that has been small diced. You can use any onion of your choice, like a yellow or a white. It's really up to you. We're going to saute our onion until it's nice and translucent, and they become nice and tender as well. This should take about 4 to 5 minutes over medium heat. We're cooking down the onions to give it a nice texture, and it'll help take off some of that pungent onion flavor. We want the onion flavor, but we don't want the onion flavor to be too strong. Then give everything a toss to coat in our oil. This will help ensure everything gets cooked evenly. Then we'll season as we go with a small pinch of kosher salt and give everything a toss to coat everything in our salt. Now that our onions are nice and translucent, we're going to add 2 medium-sized jalapenos that have been de-seeded and de-stemmed. You can use any hot pepper of your choice, or you can leave those out if you choose. We're going to cook these for about 3 to 4 minutes until they're nice and tender as well. You can also tell when your jalapenos are done when they start to change color and they're not so bright and green. The last thing we're going to add to our pan is 4 medium-sized garlic cloves that have been minced. We're going to saute our garlic with the rest of our veggies until our garlic becomes nice and fragrant in smell. Once it becomes nice and fragrant, then you know it's done. You want to ensure that you cut all of your veg into a small dice. This will help ensure that each corn popper ball that you make will have a small amount of this veg mix in it. And give everything one last little bit of salt and stir it up. Now that everything has been sauteed and seasoned to taste, we're going to throw it on a half sheet tray and throw it in the fridge to completely cool down before we mix it in with our corn and the rest of our goods. We're going to throw cheese in this and some cream cheese, so you want to ensure that this veggie mix is cool so that we don't melt the cheese before they fry and the cream cheese doesn't break. So flatten everything out to speed up the cooling process. While our veg is cooling, we're going to make a lime sour cream. Grab an 8-ounce container of sour cream. We're going to add the zest and juice from 1 medium lime. You're going to zest your lime right over your sour cream. This helps catch any of the sugar crystals or any juice that comes off of the lime when we zest it. It's best to zest your lime like this. This gives you a bird's eye view to ensure that you do not get any of that white pith on the lime, which is bitter. You can use a microplane like I did to zest your lime, or you can also use a box grater. Whichever you have will work. If you're using a microplane, the best method to get the zest off is to tap your microplane on the bowl to knock it loose, and then run your finger down the back of it to get the rest of the lime zest. Then we're going to roll out our lime like we have many times before to break up the membrane inside the lime, making it easier to juice and giving us a higher yield. You can start with half of a lime and then taste it and see if it needs more lime juice or not. I went with the full lime because I wanted it to be super limey. This will be the dipping sauce to our spicy, cheesy corn poppers. Then just squeeze your lime right into your bowl. You don't have to worry about any seeds and limes like you do with lemons. Once you have everything in there, give it a nice stir together to incorporate all the lime juice and the lime zest. And now would be the time to add any of your favorite dry spices to your sour cream, maybe like some cumin or some oregano or even some chili powder to make this sour cream even more bougie. We're going to keep it simple with just the lime today. I've made a lime sour cream before in another video. It was the stuffed bell peppers video. If you haven't seen that one, definitely go check it out. It's the perfect weeknight meal. And give it a taste and adjust your sour cream as needed. I also added a small pinch of salt to our sour cream. This helps bring out the lime flavor a lot more as well. Next, in a separate container, you're going to crack 2 large eggs. We're going to use the entire egg. This will help be the binder to make our corn poppers. Once you have both of your eggs in your container, you're going to lightly beat them like you were about to make scrambled eggs. Now that our sauteed veggies are cooled, we're going to add all of the sauteed veg to our corn kernels. You want to ensure that you use a large bowl for this. We're going to need a lot of space to mix all of our ingredients together. Next, we're gonna start adding the rest of our goodies to our bowl. First, we're gonna add 1 1/2 cup of shredded mozzarella cheese. I shredded my own because I didn't want to use any of the pre-shredded stuff that has the coating on it to prevent it from sticking, because we want everything to come together and stick together. Next to the bowl, we're gonna add 6 ounces of cream cheese. And if you don't like cream cheese, then something's wrong with you. Then give everything a nice mix together to combine all of our ingredients together. It was pretty tough to mix this stuff together because of the cream cheese. You don't want to press too hard to mix it. This will in turn, of course, will break the corn kernels. You can use a spoon. I used a spoon at first and then realized that it was worthless and got in there with my clean ball catchers, which made it a whole lot easier. You want to mix everything together until it becomes a nice large lump of corn like this, or until everything has been coated in cream cheese. Next, we're going to season everything with a few pinches of kosher salt and some fresh ground black pepper. Once everything has been seasoned to taste, give it a nice mix up to distribute all of that salt and pepper. Now that your seasoning has been mixed in really well, you want to give it a taste to ensure that it has been seasoned to your liking. Now is the perfect time to make sure that it's seasoned properly, because we're about to add eggs and you really can't or shouldn't eat raw eggs. Next to our bowl, we're going to add the 2 eggs that we lightly beat earlier. Once your eggs are in your bowl, we're going to give it a nice thorough mix together to ensure that the egg gets well distributed in our ingredients. The best method to mixing everything together is to always scoop from the bottom and bring it to the top, right into the center, and then pull your sides into the center and keep mixing it like this, almost like you're making a dough. This will help ensure that everything gets well incorporated together and nothing gets left on the bottom or on the sides. Next to our bowl, we're going to add 3/4 cup of cornmeal and give that a nice thorough mix together. This will help bring everything together so that we can start forming balls. Then the last thing we're going to add is 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour to be our binder to ensure that everything really sticks together and starts to form into a ball. Give that a nice thorough mix together. Once you add your flour to your bowl, everything starts to become a little bit harder to mix in, just because everything is starting to take a form and shape of a large corn ball now. You know when you're done when you can pick up a large ball of our corn mixture and everything holds form and keeps its shape and doesn't fall apart. Now that you have your corn mixture made, we're going to start making small little corn balls to make our poppers so that we can fry them. I used a small scoop for this. If you don't have a scoop, you can also use a scale. These corn poppers came out to about 1 ounce. I recommend that you keep your corn poppers between 1 and 1.5 ounces. You don't want them to be too large because then the center won't really cook, and then you don't want them too small because then they'll burn. Then you want to make everything as equal and the same as possible. This will help ensure that we get a nice even cook on all of our corn poppers. So blaze through all of your mixture and make as many balls as you possibly can. Now that you have your corn poppers made, in a separate holding apparatus, we're going to add 3/4 cup of panko breadcrumbs and a 1/4 cup of shredded Parmesan cheese. This will be the breading to our corn poppers to make them nice and crunchy and delicious in flavor. I also took our shredded Parmesan cheese and broke it up a bit with my fingers. This helps break it up into smaller pieces. In turn, will give us a higher yield of cheese, and it'll be more well distributed in our panko breadcrumbs. Now that you have your panko station set up, you're going to grab your corn poppers and start to roll the poppers in the panko. You want to lightly press in the panko into your corn popper to help ensure that it sticks to the popper itself. You're going to blaze through and do this for all of your little balls. Next, we're going to get our frying station set up. In a heavy bottom pot like this Dutch oven, we're going to add 3 to 4 inches of canola oil or any frying oil of your choice. Now that your oil has come up to temp, we're going to start dropping in our corn poppers. You want to use a strainer or a spider to drop in your corn poppers. This is the same exact method that we did in our tater tot video. You want to lightly and gently throw in your corn poppers because we don't want to create a large splash and burn ourselves. Once your corn poppers are nice and golden brown, we're going to pull them out of the oil. We're going to give them a light shake to shake off any of that excess oil. And we're going to throw them on a cooling rack to cool down before we eat them. And this will help let them drain of any of the excess oil. Once they're pulled out, you're going to season them immediately with some kosher salt. The reason why you want to season them immediately right after they come out of the oil is because any oil that's on them will help let the salt stick to them. then burn through and do this for the rest of your corn poppers. Then I also recommend that you take your strainer and skim the top of your oil to get any of the panko breadcrumbs that have fallen off or any other corn kernels that have come out of your corn poppers. This will keep the oil a lot cleaner and prevent any corn from popping and exploding in the oil. When you're frying these, make sure that you don't look over the top of your oil, looking down straight on top of it, just in case if any corn kernels decide to pop, then you're not going to get hit in the face with some spicy hot oil. Once you have all of your corn poppers made, grab your favorite plate, which is a newspaper in my case, and start plating up your corn poppers. You can get as bougie as you want when you go to plate these, or you can keep it as simple like I did. Then grab a small bowl and dish up some sour cream so we can enjoy that lime sour cream with our corn poppers. Then you can garnish these with pretty much whatever you want, maybe some fresh chopped parsley or some cilantro. Then I kept it sleazy and cheesy and just garnished with some extra Parmesan cheese. Then we're gonna pull it apart to try to get a cheese pull, and nothing. Wah, wah, wah. Let's try it again to see what it looks like. And a slight cheese pull. Not too bad, but not the best either.
Alright, now that our spicy cheese corn poppers are done, let's give them a shot. Came out nice and golden brown looking, and they kept a nice uniform circle shape, or a ball shape, when we fried them. Let's check it out, open it up. Nice and hot still. So these things are super crunchy. They're crunchy from all that panko that was fried, but then that corn still has that nice tender crunchiness to it as well. Then the onions and garlic are pretty faint, but it's still a really good flavor. Then the jalapenos bring that heat, and then it's super cheesy and delicious. Now let's try it with our lime sour cream. So the lime sour cream definitely helps round out these corn poppers. The acid in the sour cream and the acid in the lime juice and the lime zest helps cut through that richness from the corn poppers being fried. And then all that rich fat flavor from our mozzarella and our cream cheese. Overall, these things pair really well together and they came out great. Alright, that's it for today's video. This recipe is really easy and you can throw pretty much anything into this mix, like some crispy bacon or some fresh chives, or use any of your favorite spices besides salt and pepper to season these. And maybe you can make like a sriracha lime sour cream. That would actually be really delicious. And these things come together really easy. You can take them to a potluck or a banquet dinner or whatever other kind of party that people have. I'm really not sure. So hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Thanks for watching. And there's a ton of dishes, a lot more than I anticipated, so yeah, I should probably go do those now. So we'll see you on the next one. Today's recipe calls for fresh corn. I'm going to show you how to make spicy, cheesy. Yes, that's what it is. So the texture on these are super crunchy. Crunchy from the panko. Ooh, panko. The lime sour cream. Ugh. Whatever you want to the sour cream, and I just keep saying nothing. Or use any of your favorite spices, and my eyes are closed. Let's get started. Feel alive, feel alive. Alright, enough